Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RailCats podcast. And guess what? The RailCats just got done doing, and that's winning 2 games in a row. And and that is I should say they have now beaten the Dockhounds 3 games in a row. They played them in the last series before the Sioux Falls series, or Sioux City. My bad, Sioux City Explorers. um, what a game! What an absolute game. Harrison Francis came in and dominated from the first pitch. Um, even on the other side, Alex McRae, he pitched very well, and that's why when looking at these kinds of games, um, sorry for excuse me, um, that winning and losing for pitching doesn't really mean anything. How can you blame a pitcher for giving up um, a run? To give up 2 back-to-back hits in the fourth, and if it wasn't for Michael Woodward stealing second, that play may not have happened. But we'll get more into that. So pitching isn't defined by wins or losses. It's defined by other things: your strikeout rate, your WHIP, your ERA. I like to look at ERA. I know sometimes ERA is a little bit misleading in some in some ways, but I like to look at ERA. It just kind of tells a little bit of the story of what happened. Especially for a starter. If you're a starting pitcher, you have a lower ERA. That's really good. Even if you're a reliever and your ERA is really low, that means you're clutching the big situations. It just kind of gives you an idea of what the pitching's like. And then Jack Eisenbarger came in and he shut the absolute door on the Dockhounds. He gave up no runs, no hits. Yeah, he walked 3 people, but he struck out 6 people in 3 innings. He was lights out. He is now tied with Carlos Vega for 2 saves on the season. It was a fast-paced game. This is if baseball was a little bit more like, it was under 2.5 hour game, and I'm a big hockey guy. I like watching hockey, and typically hockey games about 2.5 hours. So this is a good spot for baseball. I know it's not going to be like that all the time. It was just a pitching duel, and that's why I like pitching duels so much. It's just the fast pace of the game, the big moments. Who's going to come with that hit? Who's going to come up with that steal? Who's going to make that slight mistake? That's gonna cost you the game. And I don't think that they had one error. Did the Dockhounds? I believe that was, as I'm looking through my scorebook. I had it somewhere up here. I was here on Wall Raven in the 5th inning. So by that time the damage is already done. So that mistake didn't really cost them. And that turf field, I want to talk about the Wisconsin Brewery Company Park field. It's a very nice field. Don't get me wrong. I love it. It looks nice. I'm just not a big fan of the all turf field. You get some wacky bounces that aren't typically normal in baseball. So, I think the Dockhounds have a little bit of advantage being able that's their home field. But it gives too much of the unknown. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you can have that in normal parks with the lip, or the grass may not, or the grass may be cut a different way or something like that. You may end up having a couple rocks or something in the infield, a divot or so. But there's too many variants, and the balls are just more extreme coming off of the ground. So I understood the error on the second baseman, but yet again, that was kind of like those weird kind of situations. Sorry for all the coughing. Jeez, I should have drank some water before I sat down and did this, but I'm trying to hurry things up a little bit. Do got to work in the morning, so I was glad it was a fast game, because I was afraid if this game was going to go into the 3 hour mark that I wouldn't be able to do this podcast. So I'm happy it was a quicker game. Enjoyed it as well. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well, because I know I did. So let's just go ahead and look at the scoring line here for the RailCats. The only run in the game, which was in the fourth inning here, it started off with Wells lining out to left field, and then Woodworth came in. He hit a single in between short and third, and then he ended up stealing the base, stealing second, which led to Lingua hitting a single between second and short, and then that bringing in Woodworth, and then Cruz struck out, and then Rasmussen grounded out to third. But going back to Woodworth, you know, that now in, well, I guess it's 4 games now. He has, I think, 8 hits in 4 games or 9 hits in 4 games. I think it's 8 hits in 4 games. So he's the hot batter right now. He was the player of the game yesterday, and he was my player of the game as well. you know, Going through the player of the games, I see it. This is why I like hockey, because you have a 1, 2, 3 star. You just don't have a player of the game. Like, yeah, your 1 stars and typically your player of the game, but I think in a team game, it's very hard, especially in baseball, just to single out one person, because in this situation, Harrison only went 6 innings, so Jack Eisenbarger had to come in and shut the door. And if he didn't, then it'd be a different ball game. And then if it wasn't for Woodworth getting the single and stealing the base, it doesn't mean that Lingua would have Lingua could have had a single, but he could have been stopped at third, and then the rest of the lineup did what it did, and we wouldn't be at this situation. So it's one of those that it's all it's hard to just pin it on one person. So I think going forward, I may start like a little hockey trend, like a 3 star instead of just like the player of the game, just more like the 3 players of the game, that kind of stuff. Your single, your double, your triple player of the game. You know what I'm saying? Something along the lines of that. I'll think of some weird quirky thing to put it as, because I think in a win, no matter what it is, there should be at least 3 people that are involved in it. Like I said, in this game, it was 1-0, but technically 4 players were involved in this, because I mean, who do you give the benefit of the run for? Do you give it because of Woodworth, because of the steal, or because Lingua was able to hit him in? Harrison Francis didn't finish the whole game, so should he solely be the player of the game because he only pitched 6 innings? And not saying that he couldn't have gone 9 innings. It's just, I think that's the way Lamar Rogers is running things right now. It's one of those that he's rounding about the 5th, 6th inning for their starters, even if they're doing well. Is that the kind of rotation stop for them? So it was very good, a very fun game. I loved it. It was a good game. That's the games I like to see. Um, you know, so just kind of going through everyone. So I'll talk about the good things. There was a couple bad things that I do want to point out, that should be fixed a little bit. But going through the RailCats lineup here, Wells went 0 for 4 with 1 strikeout. Woodworth had 2 hits on 1 run. And then Lingua had 2 hits with an RBI. Cruz had 1 hit, walked once and struck out twice. Zach Rasmussen went 0 for 4. So did Sam Abbott at 2 strikeouts. Alec Olid went 1 for 3. Wall Raven went 0 for 3. And Rookard went 0 for 3 with 1 strikeout as well. And then you look on the other side, Snyder, he had 2 hits, 2 strikeouts on 4 at bats. Takas had 1 walk, but went 0 for 3. Bennett went 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Noriega went 1 for 4 with 1 strikeout. Bruzo went 0 for 3, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk. Then Young went 1 for 3 with 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Berry went 1 strikeout and 0 for 4. Malnara went 0 for 3, and Carnaza, as I think that's how you say it. It could be wrong. I had it. I tried to remember it, but I forgot. He went 0 for 3 with 1 strikeout as well. Looking at the stat line for the entire team, the RailCats had 1 run, 6 hits, no errors. The Dockhounds had 0 runs, 5 hits, 1 error. Looking at the pitching line here, Harrison Francis went 6 innings, gave up 5 hits, no runs, no earned runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts. Jack Eisenbarger came in relief, gave up 3 walks on 6 strikeouts in 3 innings. And then Alex McRae, he went 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. And then it was Serial Watson came in, and he pitched 2 innings, gave up 1 hit, and had 1 strikeout as well. Looking at the positives, this RailCats team seems to have the offensive spurts. It's not like consistency to a certain extent. It's just like in spurts. It seems like their top of the fourth is the third and fourth inning is kind of where they score a lot of their runs. In that area there is where they kind of get it going. Once you see the pitcher, second, third time, but then it kind of sputters out, and then depending on the game, they might pick it back up in the eighth and ninth. But if they could have consistency, I would say if you can at least score 4 runs in a game, you're in a good starting point there, because you want your pitchers to kind of be at a 3 ERA, so they only give up about 3 runs a game. You get that 4, then that's where you're looking good, decently at that size of the field. But so the handful of mistakes, and I'm going to keep harping a little bit on Cruz, just because. Yes, does he do a good job frame working? Yes, but sometimes, he frames, but he doesn't always check. A guy does check swing kind of deal. You got some catchers that will keep looking at the first, the third base umpire or the first base umpire trying to get a call, and you never know, you might get a call, and that's sometimes like the RailCats. It seemed like they were getting a lot of against them because the catchers kept pointing. I think Jackson Smith does a very good job of that. Yes, Jackson Smith may not frame the best, but in this league, the umpire's strike zone, it varies so very much. I mean, it seems like over the past 2 games, the strike zone starts out really big, then kind of shrinks, and then kind of gets big again. It's just a weird inconsistency in the umpires. So I don't think framework is that huge of a deal in this league. Yes, you want a little bit of framework done, but not to an certain extent where you are always like you're just getting pissed off at a catcher for not framing correctly. But the big thing that I wanted to throw at was there was a pass ball or wild pitch. Yeah, it was a wild pitch in the third. Cruz, instead of just dropping and blocking it, I think it was like a slider in the dirt. And with the turf field, he went to go backhand it, and anything in the dirt, typically catchers are going to drop down to their knees and just try to block it, not so much backhand it. I can understand it. The runner was going, so you're trying to pick it and then go with it. But I think in that situation, you got to understand the terrain as well. It's a turf field, so the ball's going to bounce. The ball's not going, the bounce about a foot in front of him. That ball's going to come up to his chest, and he just went backhand and tried to snip it, and it went flying past him. Yes, is it a wild pitch? Should it be a pass ball? In my eyes, it should. But the other thing that it's okay. It didn't cost you anything in this game, but there's been a couple times where it has cost you 2 games because of the errors behind the plate. You're a catcher. The main goal is to make sure the ball stays in front of you. Don't let it. I understand wild pitches happen. Whatever the case may be, but if it's in the dirt, you gotta block it some way. Somehow you have to block it. I get there's some miscommunication between pitches, and you have a signal maybe off or whatever the case. I get it. Or a ball goes flying, there's no way to catch it. But anything in the dirt theoretically should stay in front of you the entire time. But it doesn't always happen. Everyone makes mistakes, so on and so forth. But the other big thing that I've seen a lot of is line drives into double plays. So there was I thought there was 2, but I could have been wrong. It might have just been 1, but there was 1 in last game as well. I forget. Going back and looking who it was that got lined out on. Give me a second. Oh, it was it was Rasmussen lined out to short again, and Lingua got caught at second. So you had that situation happen again tonight, but this time it was Woodworth sitting on second, and at the point there was no out at this point. And it was in the 6th inning. Woodworth gets on with a beautiful single in between right and not between right, between third and shortstop, and he steals second again, second stolen base of the game, and then Lingua popped out, and then Cruz walked, and then Rasmussen hits another another line drive that the shortstop makes a beautiful catch on, but um, Woodworth was uh, just going because he thought it was gonna get through. I get it in that circumstance. The ball was going to left field, and you could have potentially scored on it, but at that point, when you're taught at a young age, is freeze, don't line drive, freeze, don't try. I get, maybe if it was going to right field, you may have had a different opportunity, just because it's on that far side of the field. And, you could have been caught in a pickle anyways, because if it gets through and you freeze, it doesn't mean you get to third. But I guess I would rather a person freeze, be out at third, because he was being pressured by Cruz, than him go and get caught off, and then that takes the momentum away. That momentum gets taken away a lot more than a momentum from a play to, you just kind of got caught in a pickle. A line drive, you're gonna get caught in pickles, and it is what it is, and that's how it works. But it's just one of those things that you wish you didn't see. But then in the ninth inning, actually, it happened again, but this was a little bit more understandable. So Lingua gets in with a single over the shortstop, and Cruz strikes out, and then Rasmussen comes in. It's right. If you're on base and Rasmussen is up to bat, you should just automatically freeze. But it was a hit and run situation, and Rasmussen just got underneath it, and Lingua was just gone. He was stealing. He slid into second and everything. Like, you knew that it was a hit and run kind of situation, and the right fielder just threw it back in, and Lingua was out by a mile. There's nothing you could do on that one. It's just kind of a crappy situation. But I think they've gotten the fielding down to be better. But the base running still has seemed to kind of bite them a little bit. But speaking of base running as well, Lingua now gets his 12th steal. Stole his 12th he stole his 12th base this season. It hasn't yet been caught, so it'll be interesting to see if he gets caught this year. He probably will, but you never know. He is leading the league in that ratio as well. So just looking at the standings here, the Dockhounds are now on a 3-game losing streak, but now the RailCats are on a 2-game winning streak and pulling just a wee bit closer. They're pulling 2 games behind the Dockhounds, and if they win out these next 2 games, they're tied. They'll be they won't be tied with the Milkmen. They're still 3 games back behind them, but still, nonetheless, you even it out, and you're back in this battle, and then you'll face Sioux City, who you kind of fell against, but is also still at the bottom of the league. They're 8-12. I mean, the record is pretty similar, but I mean, they're also on a 5-game winning streak as well. But you never know. It is what it is, and you come out with a win tomorrow. You win 3 in a row. You win the series, and you're off a good foot. I mean, you need to start winning series at this point. They need to get a little hot streak. I know Ryan Zimmerman did an interview with the American Association talking about this team is very capable. This team is very capable of winning, and making it to the postseason. They have the pitching to do it. It's just a matter of their offense is going to show up. Their offense needs to show up when their pitching isn't quite there. When your pitching kind of gets a little rough spell and you give up 5 or 6 runs, I wouldn't even say that that's kind of a large number, but you give up 4, you potentially need that 5th one to win, or you give up 3, you need a 4, so I think the offense, these 1-0 games are only going to get you so far, and you've seen it throughout the course of the year. But taking it for what it is, winning 2 in a row against a team that is above you is a very good thing. So I'm happy with the result today, and as everyone should be. There's things to take away from it. But yeah, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this podcast up. I'm your host, Kyle Savetic. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Facebook. And like, comment, subscribe on YouTube as well. I love to talk to people, so get on, comment on anything. I'll try and respond to everyone that does. Just keep up the support. I'm doing it for people that want to, may miss the game and want to know what kind of goes on in the game and thoughts and stuff like that. Give your thoughts out as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I know you enjoyed the result of the game. A little Pat Foley for you hockey fans. Wanted to try that out a little bit. But that's going to do it for me. Enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, whenever you're listening to this, and go Cats.